Hello and welcome to Autoportal.com, the car buying website that helps you buy better. If you want unbiased, honest and easy to understand car buying advice, then please subscribe to our channel by clicking over here. And while you're at it, also click on the bell icon to receive all our notifications first. Thanks for watching. The Hyundai Grand i10 and the Maruti Suzuki Swift are two of a kind. Yes, both these cars are vying for your money in the premium hatchback space, but which one is better and which one makes more sense in terms of space, drivability and overall value? We'll find out on the show today. Well, so if you're planning to sell your car first before planning on any of these options, then you should definitely consider Cars24. Visit any of their 50 branches across India and sell your car at the best price. Not only this, Cars24 will immediately transfer the money into your bank account and will also take care of all the paperwork, including the RC transfer. So check out Cars24 today. Now this car has been around for the last 5 years, so this car doesn't have that same wow factor that the Swift's cabin has, and it doesn't really feel like a very sporty cabin to be in. But that said, it feels like a nice and sober place to be in. It is a place where you can spend the entire day and not be worried about anything, because it really has that calming effect about itself. The cabin of the Grand i10 definitely has that calming effect, and you will really enjoy spending your time inside it. Now, in terms of features, you get more or less the same features list on both these cars. You also get Apple's CarPlay as well as Android Auto on this one, as you do on the Swift. And in terms of utility places also, it's the same, so I won't really go around and show you all of them. Well, there are a couple of things that you will truly appreciate inside the Grand i10's cabin. The first one is the fact that this glove box is air-cooled, and it is of a pretty decent shape and size, which means that on those long and hot summery days, you will have that chilled and cold beverage with you. The other thing is that the stereo system over here has 1 GB of storage space. These two things are very thoughtful touches from Hyundai, and full marks to them for really giving attention to detail. Well, in terms of seat comfort, the seats themselves are decent, but the cushioning is a bit on the softish side, especially the support for the lower back could have been better. And on long journeys, you might just feel your back tiring out a bit, because the seat support over here for the lower back is a little on the softer side. So that's something that Hyundai engineers maybe could improve on the next version of this car. Well, the first thing that you'll truly appreciate about the Swift are these seats. Now, these seats aren't just better than the Grand i10s. These seats are the best in the business. They're definitely ahead of all other rivals. And I'm stretching out my neck and saying that these seats are the best seats in the premium hatchback space. You won't find more comfortable or more supportive seats in this category. Now, in terms of equipment, both these cars are neck and neck. They're both identical. Both of them get Apple's CarPlay, Android Auto, as well as automatic climate control, ABS, as well as airbags. The quality of the Swift is just a slight nudge below the Grand i10s. It doesn't have that same consistency all across the cabin. Some of the bits over here towards the lower end of the dashboard aren't as well bolted together as the ones on the Grand i10, and some of the switches are a bit fiddly to operate. Apart from that, another thing which this car is slightly behind the Grand is storage places, because the glove box really is very tiny and it's not air-cooled like that car. But that said, the design and the energy of the Swift's cabin is definitely up there. It really feels like a young man's car. It really feels like a car which is directed and aimed at the youth, and it is a much more sportier cabin, I'll say that. You also get this flat bottom steering wheel, which makes this cabin feel a whole lot more sportier than it is. But some people who are family biased might also say that because it is all dark, it can get a bit dingy and a bit claustrophobic on those long highway trips. So it really depends on what you want from your cabin. It really is neck and neck, at least in the front seats. Well, so who wins the battle of the front seats? In terms of sheer comfort, it is the Swift which has the advantage. Well, the cabin of the Swift just doesn't have that airy and bright feel about itself like the one on the Grand i10, and you can blame the black upholstery for that, because that car, remember, gets all beige, which really does liven up the interiors. This one feels a little claustrophobic. Also, the last window over here isn't as big, and you also get this blackened out effect, so that also reduces the glass area, and you will definitely feel a lot more comfortable in the Grand in the back seat on those long highway trips. Knee room in isolation is decent, but again the Grand is better, and the Swift also misses out on rear AC vents as well as a charging point, two things which the Grand offers. Well, so if you're someone who prefers to sit in the back seat rather than drive up front, then you'll definitely prefer the Grand i10 over the Maruti Suzuki Swift. And why is that? As you can see, knee room is a whole lot better than it is inside the Swift, and headroom also is pretty generous. Now you also get your own AC vents at the back, something which the Swift does not offer, and there's also a 12-volt charging point, which is a big boon for people who are always on their mobile phones as well as tablet devices. So overall, the battle of the back seat is clearly won by the Grand i10. Well, so in terms of overall boot capacity, it is the Maruti Suzuki Swift which has a slight advantage over the Grand i10. Now, both these cars are almost identical in the way their boots look, but yes, the Swift has the advantage. There is a bit of a sill on both these cars, but you can easily forgive it. And in the real world conditions, it's hardly a major difference. You can choose any one and you'll be quite happy or not so happy with their limited boots. Well, so the Maruti Suzuki Swift comes with a 1.2-litre petrol engine, and you'll immediately appreciate the fact that this engine feels a lot more rev happy, and it also feels a lot more free revving than the one on the Hyundai Grand i10. And not only this, it feels a lot more responsive towards the lower end of its RPM band. So around 1100-1200 RPM is the point when this engine starts feeling lively, and it definitely makes the Swift a nice car to drive in the city. Now, in terms of steering wheel feedback, both these cars are nearly identical, and there's hardly anything to choose from these cars. And it is the Swift which has a little more communication from its steering wheel. And if you are someone who calls himself a keen driver, then it is the Swift that you will definitely choose ahead of the Grand i10, because this car has less body roll, it has a more communicative steering wheel, and it just feels more agile when you push it into corners. Buyers will also like the fact that the Swift is a keen handler. Now, it's not as keen as the last generation Swift, but to be honest, for average buyers, this is all the keenness or sportiness that they will need from a hatchback, because when you push this car into corners, there's plenty of grip, there's very limited body roll, and the suspension also is a little tauter than before, so it feels like this car is more sportier than the Grand i10. In terms of engine refinement, it really is neck and neck, and there's hardly anything to choose between both these cars. Both these cars are splendid in terms of engine refinement. Now, if you decide to choose the manual Swift petrol, you will truly like the fact that this gearbox is a nice and crisp unit. Yes, it is a very crisp gearbox, and you will truly like using it. In fact, you'll just be changing gears for the heck of it, because it is such a nice gearbox to operate. And the clutch also is a nice and light unit, and it really does make the Swift a nice car for the city. That said, the Grand i10 is definitely a very good car for people who drive primarily in the city and don't really take their car out on the highway. And why do I say that? Well, simply because the steering wheel on this car is ultra light. It is a very, very light steering wheel. The clutch and gearbox also are extremely light, and apart from that, you get excellent visibility all across the cabin. The view from the front window is excellent. The side view mirrors are really nice and big, and even the window at the back is a large sized one, so you get a good view whatever's happening behind you. And this car is a lot easier to park into those tight parking places than the Swift, because it doesn't have any blind spots, so to speak of, which the Swift does have. So it is a better car for people who drive primarily in the city. Talking about the city, you will truly appreciate the fact that the suspension on the Grand i10 is softly set up. It is a soft setup for the suspension, which means that if you drive over those expansion joints and are driving over those badly patched up roads in the city, this car's suspension will soak up all the bumps. Yes, this car's suspension will truly soak up all the bumps and won't let you feel any of those badly patched up roads inside the cabin. Now, in terms of overall gearbox uses, it is the Swift which feels a lot more sportier to use. The clutch on both these cars is nearly identical, so there's hardly anything to choose between them. The gearboxes also are nearly identical. The Swift, though, has a better feel to it. There is a little bit of sportiness which the Swift's gearbox displays, while this one isn't as sporty. It is a light unit, but doesn't have that same slickness about itself. Well, in terms of overall performance, the Grand i10 just feels a little hesitant to respond to your throttle inputs compared to the Swift. The Swift has a very nice and free revving engine. This one, though, just needs a little more RPMs to get going, and that can be sometimes annoying in the city, but it's not a big issue. Well, so the winner of today's comparison is undoubtedly the Maruti Suzuki Swift petrol. And why is that? Well, simply because the petrol engine in this car feels a lot more responsive, a lot more peppier, and is also a lot more fuel efficient than the Grand i10. But that's not all. It also offers you the more comfortable seats, and it just feels like a better car for keen drivers. And what I'm essentially trying to say is that the Maruti Suzuki Swift is all the hatchback that you will truly ever need. It's bye for now, and hope to see you soon.